The Great Council chamber on Nexus Prime had been reconfigured for this historic occasion. Representatives from all 12 member species filled their traditional seats, while a new section had been added specifically for the human delegation. News crews from across the galaxy recorded every moment as the most significant diplomatic event in over a century was about to begin. Siak Jin, chief ambassador of the Terran Dominion, walked calmly through the massive doors of the chamber. Behind him came a small group of human representatives: Yu Jin, the military attaché whose uniform bore the insignia of Admiral Wu Jin's staff, and Ji Hoon, the trade representative whose simple appearance disguised one of the sharpest economic minds in human space. The chamber fell silent as the humans took their seats. Every representative present understood the significance of this moment. For the first time in galactic history, a species that had been written off as extinct was claiming a seat at the table of interstellar powers. Counselor Jin Wu, now serving as the official mediator for these proceedings, stood at the central podium. "We are gathered today to formally recognize the return of humanity to galactic affairs," he announced. "Chief Ambassador Siak Jin, the Council is prepared to hear the Terran Dominion's formal proposals." Siak Jin rose gracefully, his movements confident but respectful. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly throughout the chamber, without amplification. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, I come before you not as a supplicant seeking charity, but as the voice of an independent galactic power seeking recognition and mutual respect." He activated a holographic display that showed the current political map of the galaxy, with Terran space clearly marked. The Terran Dominion formally claims sovereignty over 17 star systems, comprising our current colonial territories. These worlds have been settled, developed, and defended by human blood and sacrifice. We ask for recognition of these territorial boundaries. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 17 systems was a significant claim, especially for a species that had been considered extinct. Counselor Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire raised his hand. "Ambassador Siak Jin, the Council recognizes territorial claims based on effective occupation and development. Can you provide evidence that these systems are genuinely under Terran control?" Siak Jin smiled slightly. "The elimination of the hegemony fleet should serve as adequate proof of our ability to defend our territory. But if you require additional demonstration..." The holographic display changed to show detailed images of human colonies, cities that blended advanced technology with careful environmental management, orbital installations that dwarfed anything in Council space, industrial complexes that could produce warships at a rate that made even the most optimistic Council estimates look conservative. "These are not struggling frontier settlements," Siak Jin continued. "These are the worlds of a mature interstellar civilization. Our population is sufficient to support continued expansion. Our technology base is entirely self-sufficient. Our military, as you have seen, is capable of projecting power far beyond our borders." Admiral Tejo leaned forward. "Ambassador, what are your intentions regarding further expansion? The Council needs to understand whether humanity poses a threat to existing territorial boundaries." "Our expansion will continue," Siak Jin answered honestly. "But into unclaimed regions of space. We have no interest in conquering worlds already occupied by other species. The galaxy is large enough for all of us." Ji-hoon stood and approached a secondary podium. "If I may address the economic aspects of recognition?" Jin-woo nodded. "The Council recognizes Trade Representative Ji-hoon." "Thank you, Counselor. The Terran Dominion is prepared to offer significant economic opportunities to Council members, willing to establish normal trade relations with humanity." The holographic display shifted to show graphs and data tables. "We have developed manufacturing techniques that can produce goods at roughly 30% below current galactic market prices. Our medical technology has eliminated most forms of cancer, extended average lifespans by 40%, and can treat genetic conditions previously considered incurable." Dr. Yoonji, representing the Council's scientific community, gasped audibly. 40% lifespan extension? How is that possible? "Genetic therapy combined with nanotechnology," Ji-hoon replied. "We're prepared to share these innovations with species that establish formal diplomatic relations with the Dominion." "What about military technology?" Admiral Te-Ho asked bluntly. Yu Jin stepped forward, his expression serious. Our military technologies will not be shared. However, we are willing to provide security services to council members under certain circumstances. What kind of circumstances? Situations similar to the hegemony raids, external threats that exceed the defensive capabilities of individual council members. We would respond to formal requests for assistance at our discretion. Seok-jin retook the podium. The Terran Dominion seeks to be a contributing member of the galactic community. We offer trade, technology transfer, and security cooperation. In return, we ask for recognition of our sovereignty, respect for our territorial boundaries, and treatment as equals in all diplomatic matters. The chamber was quiet as representatives considered the human proposals. The terms were reasonable, even generous. But everyone understood the unspoken message. These were not requests. They were the opening terms of negotiation from a position of strength. Councillor He-jin of the Altarian Federation stood. Ambassador, what guarantees can you provide that humanity will honor these commitments? Your species has been isolated for 150 years. How do we know you can be trusted? Seok-jin's expression remained calm. Councillor He-jin, you ask about trust. Let me ask you something in return. When Earth was dying, did humanity honor its commitments to peace? Even while facing extinction, did we attack other species or attempt to take their worlds by force? The chamber fell silent. The answer was well known. Even while their civilization crumbled, humans had continued to follow galactic law and had never threatened other species. We kept faith with the galactic community even when that community abandoned us to die. Seok-jin continued. That should tell you something about human character. We honor our agreements. Jinwoo called for a recess to allow the representatives to consult with their governments. During the break, small groups of representatives gathered throughout the chamber, discussing the human proposals in hushed voices. Admiral Te-Ho approached Seok-jin directly. Ambassador, may I speak frankly? Of course, Admiral. Your military demonstration against the hegemony was impressive, perhaps too impressive. Some of my colleagues are concerned about humanity's long-term intentions. Seok-jin nodded understanding. Admiral, let me be equally frank. Humanity learned a hard lesson 150 years ago. We learned that we can only depend on ourselves for survival. That lesson has shaped everything we've built since then. And it means we have no interest in conquering or controlling other species. We want to be left alone to develop our own civilization in our own way. But we also want the respect and recognition that comes from being strong enough to defend ourselves. The galaxy is still adjusting to the idea that humanity survived, Te-Ho admitted. Some species remember the old stories about human aggression. Those old stories were about a different humanity, Seok-jin replied. We were young, divided, constantly fighting among ourselves. The humans who survived Earth's death learned to work together. We had to, or we would have died in the dark between stars. When the session resumed, the vote was closer than expected but decisive. The Galactic Council formally recognized the Terran Dominion as an independent galactic power with full territorial rights to their 17 star systems. As the vote was announced, Seok-jin stood for the final time. On behalf of all humanity, I thank the Council for this recognition. We look forward to a future of mutual cooperation and shared prosperity. He paused, his expression becoming more serious. But let me leave you with one final thought. 150 years ago, the galaxy taught humanity that we could only depend on ourselves. We learned that lesson well. Very well. Today begins a new chapter in galactic history. Whether that chapter tells the story of cooperation or competition will depend on how we treat each other going forward. The Terran Dominion is ready to be a friend to all species that approach us with respect and honesty. We are equally ready to defend ourselves against any who mistake our desire for peace as weakness. As the human delegation prepared to leave, every representative in the chamber understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had returned not as refugees seeking help, but as a mature galactic power demanding respect, and they had the strength to enforce that demand. In the months that followed, trade agreements were signed, diplomatic embassies were established, and the galaxy slowly adapted to the new reality. The Terran Dominion kept its word on every commitment, becoming a reliable partner in galactic affairs. But human ships continued to patrol the borders of Terran space, sleek and powerful vessels that served as a constant reminder of the lesson humanity had learned among the dying stars. Never again would they depend on the mercy of others. 3 weeks had passed since the meeting at Station Kepler 9, and the Galactic Council was still debating humanity's return. Some members wanted to welcome the humans as equals. Others feared that recognizing human territorial claims would encourage other species to make similar demands. Admiral Tejo stood in the Council's war room on Nexus Prime, studying reports from across the galaxy. The human fleet had returned to the edge of Council space and was waiting patiently for an official response to their diplomatic overtures. "Admiral," called his aide, "we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Outer Rim colonies. The hegemony has launched another raid." Tejo cursed under his breath. The hegemony was a collection of militant species that rejected Council authority. They had been raiding outer colonies for months, stealing resources and taking prisoners. The Council fleet was stretched too thin to provide adequate protection for every settlement. "How bad is it this time?" 7 colonies attacked simultaneously. The raiders hit fast and disappeared before our patrol ships could respond. They took everything valuable and destroyed what they couldn't carry. Jin Wu entered the war room, looking exhausted from days of diplomatic negotiations. "Any word from the outer colonies?" "The hegemony struck again," Tejo reported. 7 colonies this time. "We're losing credibility out there, Jin Wu. The colonists are starting to wonder if Council membership is worth the cost if we can't protect them." Jin Wu rubbed his temples. The timing was terrible. The Council was already dealing with the human situation, and now the hegemony was making them look weak and ineffective. "Sir," the aide interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Captain Dong Hyun is requesting a private communication with Council leadership." Tejo and Jin Wu exchanged glances. "Put him through to the main display." Captain Dong Hyun appeared on the screen, his expression serious. "Admiral Counselor Jin Wu, I understand you're having trouble with raiders in the Outer Rim." "How do you know about that?" Tejo asked suspiciously. "We've been monitoring Council communications since we arrived," Dong Hyun admitted without embarrassment. "It's standard procedure when operating in potentially hostile territory." Jin Wu leaned forward. "Captain, if you have something to propose, we're listening. The Terran Dominion would like to offer assistance with your hegemony problem. Consider it a demonstration of our commitment to peaceful relations with the Council." Admiral Tejo frowned. "What kind of assistance?" "Let us deal with the raiders. Completely. Permanently." The boldness of the offer caught both Council leaders by surprise. The hegemony fleet consisted of over 100 ships, crewed by some of the most vicious warriors in the galaxy. They had been raiding Council space for years, always staying one step ahead of retaliation. "Captain," Jin Wu said carefully, "we appreciate the offer, but the hegemony is not a small problem. They have significant military resources and extensive knowledge of this region of space." "I understand," Dong Hyun replied, "but perhaps it's time the galaxy saw what human military doctrine looks like in practice." Admiral Tejo studied the human captain's face on the screen. There was no boasting, no false bravado, just quiet confidence. "What do you want in return?" Tejo asked. "Nothing more than we've already requested. Recognition of the Terran Dominion as an independent galactic power. If we succeed in eliminating the hegemony threat, it should demonstrate that humanity is capable of contributing to galactic security." Jin Wu was quiet for a moment, considering the implications. If the humans succeeded, it would prove their military capabilities and potentially solve a major problem for the Council. If they failed, well, the Council wouldn't be any worse off than they were now. "How quickly could you act?" Jin Wu asked. "We can begin operations immediately. Admiral Wu Jin is already positioning our fleet for maximum effectiveness." 2 days later, Admiral Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the TDS Relentless, studying tactical displays showing hegemony positions throughout the outer rim. The human admiral was younger than Dong Hyun, but had earned his rank through brilliant, strategic thinking during the colony wars of the previous decade. Status report, Wu Jin commanded. His tactical officer, Min Sik, looked up from his console. Sir, we've identified the locations of all major hegemony bases. Intelligence indicates approximately 120 ships of various classes, plus ground installations on 15 different worlds. Troop strength? Estimated at 50,000 warriors plus support personnel. They're spread out across multiple star systems to avoid concentrated retaliation. Wu Jin nodded. The hegemony strategy was sound for fighting the Council, whose doctrine relied on massive fleet engagements, but humans had learned different lessons during their centuries of survival warfare. Ye Jin, he called to the fighter wing commander. Are your pilots ready? Captain Ye Jin grinned from her station. Sir, my squadron leaders have been studying hegemony tactics for weeks. We know how they think, how they fight, and how they try to escape when things go badly. Excellent. Begin Phase 1. The human attack began not with massive fleet formations, but with something the hegemony had never encountered: coordinated strikes by small, incredibly fast ships that appeared without warning. Ye Jin led the first wave personally, her fighter screaming through hyperspace toward a hegemony supply depot. Behind her, 49 other pilots followed in perfect formation. Remember, she broadcast to her squadron, hit fast, hit hard, and don't give them time to think. These raiders are used to fighting enemies who announce their presence with big, slow fleets. The supply depot never knew what hit them. One moment, their sensors showed empty space. The next, 50 human fighters were among them, weapons blazing. The depot's defenses, designed to stop large ships, couldn't track targets moving at nearly 90% of light speed. Within minutes, the entire installation was destroyed. The human fighters vanished back into hyperspace before the hegemony could even send a distress call. Similar attacks occurred simultaneously across 12 star systems. Hegemony bases, supply depots, communication relays, and patrol ships simply disappeared. Each attack lasted less than 10 minutes, and each left nothing but wreckage behind. Admiral Wu Jin watched the tactical displays as red marks representing hegemony positions flickered and went dark one by one. Phase 2, he ordered. The hegemony leadership, panicking as their organization crumbled around them, ordered their remaining ships to concentrate at their main base for a final stand. It was exactly what the humans had expected. Sir, Min Sik reported, 87 hegemony ships have gathered at asteroid base Omega. They're probably planning to make their last stand there. Or they're planning to scatter again if they get the chance, Wu Jin mused. We won't give them that chance. The human fleet approached the asteroid base with deliberate slowness, allowing the raiders plenty of time to see them coming. The hegemony commanders, encouraged by the numerical advantage, prepared for a traditional fleet engagement. They got something very different. Instead of closing to weapons range, the human ships stopped just outside the range of hegemony guns. Then they began demonstrating technologies the raiders had never imagined. Gravitational weapons that crushed ships like tin cans, energy beams that bent around obstacles to strike targets hiding behind asteroids, electronic warfare systems that turned hegemony ships against each other by taking control of their weapon systems. The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. When it was over, the entire hegemony fleet was either destroyed or disabled, their base reduced to floating debris. Admiral Wu Jin opened a channel to the surviving hegemony commanders. Attention hegemony forces. I am Admiral Wu Jin of the Terran Dominion Navy. Your organization is finished. Your fleets are destroyed. Your bases have been eliminated. You have two choices: surrender now and face trial by the Galactic Council, or continue fighting and be destroyed. The response came quickly. The remaining hegemony leaders were not stupid. They had seen what human weapons could do. We surrender, came the reply from the senior surviving commander. We formally surrendered to human forces. Admiral Wu Jin smiled grimly. Wise choice. Within 72 hours of beginning their operation, The humans had completely eliminated the hegemony as a threat to Council space. Not defeated, not scattered, not temporarily driven off, eliminated. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The militant organization that had plagued the Council for years had been crushed by a human fleet in less than 3 days, on Ia. Nexus Prime Admiral Tejo stared at the reports in disbelief. They didn't just win, he told Jinwoo. They made it look easy, professional, like they were cleaning up a minor nuisance instead of fighting a war. Jinwoo nodded slowly. I think we have our answer about human military capabilities. The question now, Tejo said, is whether we want them as allies or enemies. The choice, both men knew, was no longer really a choice at all. The alarms stopped as suddenly as they had started. Admiral Tejo was already reaching for his communication device when Captain Dong Hyun raised a hand. Please don't be alarmed, the human said calmly. My ship just performed a small demonstration for your escort fleet. They're all perfectly safe. Jinwoo looked confused. What kind of demonstration? Through the station's viewport, they could see the Council escort fleet floating motionless in space. The running lights on all 10 warships had gone dark. No engine, glow, no shield shimmer, nothing. Admiral Tejo's communication device crackled to life. Admiral, this is Captain Rixcan of the Dreadnought Eternal Glory. Sir, we have a problem. All of our systems just shut down. Weapons, shields, engines, everything were running on emergency power only. Dong Hyun touched a control on his wrist device. Immediately, the Council ships began lighting up again as their systems came back online. How did you do that? Dr. Yoonji asked in amazement. Our weapons technology has advanced considerably since Earth's final days, Dong Hyun explained. That was a relatively simple electromagnetic pulse system that can disable most electronic systems without causing permanent damage. Admiral Tejo's face was grim. You could have destroyed our entire fleet. Yes, Dong Hyun agreed simply. But we didn't. That's the point. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The Council representatives now understood that humanity had not just survived, but had become technologically superior to the galactic powers that had abandoned them. Please, let's sit down and talk properly, Jinwoo suggested, clearly shaken by what he had witnessed. As they returned to the conference table, Dong Hyun activated another device. A holographic figure appeared beside him, an elderly human male with gray hair and tired eyes. This is Sun Ho, our chief historian and diplomatic advisor, Dong Hyun introduced. He has something to show you. Sun Ho bowed respectfully to the Council representatives, then began speaking in a voice heavy with old pain. 153 years ago, Earth's scientists confirmed that our sun was entering an unstable phase. They calculated that within 50 years, solar radiation would make our planet uninhabitable. Immediately, Earth's governments began sending distress calls to every civilization we knew existed. The hologram changed to show old recordings of human broadcasts, desperate voices speaking in dozens of languages, all carrying the same message. Help us. Our world is dying. We sent detailed information about our situation to the Galactic Council, Sun Ho continued. We offered everything we had in exchange. For assistance with evacuation, our entire accumulated knowledge, our art, our culture, our labor. We asked for nothing more than transportation to any habitable world where we could survive. Dr. Yoonji shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She had read these old records during her research into extinct civilizations. We waited for 3 years, Sun Ho said. 3 years of increasingly desperate messages. Our population was already being affected by increased solar radiation. People were dying. Children were being born with genetic damage. Admiral Tejo found his voice. The Council did receive your messages, but the cost of relocating an entire species was considered too high for such a primitive people, Sun Ho finished. Yes, we know. We eventually intercepted some of your internal communications. The hologram changed to show Council meeting records from 150 years ago. The audio was in the old form of Standard Galactic, but translation systems made it understandable. The humans show promise, one voice said, but their technology is still centuries behind our own. The resources required to relocate their entire species could be better used helping more advanced civilizations. Another voice agreed. If they cannot solve their own problems, perhaps they are not meant to survive. Natural selection operates on the galactic scale as well as the planetary. Jinwoo looked pale. I had no idea those records still existed. We kept copies of everything, Sunho said quietly, including the final council decision to officially ignore Earth's requests for aid. The recording played one last snippet. The matter of Earth is considered closed. No further resources will be allocated to human relocation efforts. The silence in the conference room was complete. Even Admiral Taeho, who had been prepared to defend council actions, found himself unable to speak. Sunho's hologram flickered and changed to show images of Earth during its final decades. Cities covered by protective domes, underground colonies, massive construction projects in space. We knew we were alone, Sunho continued. So we saved ourselves. The best and brightest of humanity worked together on evacuation plans. We built generation ships, colony vessels, anything that could carry humans to the stars. The images showed enormous spacecraft under construction in Earth's orbit, thousands of them, each designed to carry tens of thousands of people. We didn't have the luxury of choosing perfect destinations, Sunho explained. We went to any world that could possibly support human life. Desert planets, ice worlds, high-gravity colonies that crushed the bones of anyone not genetically modified. To survive there. Dr. Yoonji was taking notes frantically. How many people did you manage to evacuate? Classified information, Donghyun answered before Sunho could reply. Let's just say that humanity's population today is sufficient to support a major interstellar civilization. Admiral Taeho studied the star map still displayed on the main screen. 17 worlds. Even if each one supports 100 million people, that's less than 2 billion humans total, barely a fraction of the Council's population. Donghyun smiled slightly. Admiral, you're thinking like someone who still depends on others for survival. We learned to think differently. Sunho's presentation shifted to show modern human colonies, cities that seemed to blend technology with nature, orbital habitats that spun gracefully around distant stars, industrial complexes that could build spacecraft larger than anything in the Council fleet. We didn't just survive, Sunho said with obvious pride. We became something new, something stronger. The humans who live today are not the same species that begged the Council for help 150 years ago. What do you mean? Jinwoo asked. Genetic modification, Dr. Yoonji answered, understanding immediately. You changed yourselves to survive on those harsh worlds. Among other improvements, Donghyun confirmed. Enhanced intelligence, improved physical capabilities, extended lifespans, immunity to most diseases. When you're building a civilization from nothing, you use every advantage available. Admiral Taeho leaned back in his chair. So you're saying that abandoning humanity actually made you stronger? I'm saying that necessity forced us to become stronger, Donghyun corrected. The galaxy taught us that we could only depend on ourselves. We learned that lesson very well. Sunho's hologram faded, but his final words hung in the air. We don't want revenge. We don't want apologies. We want recognition as equals and assurance that what happened to Earth will never happen to any human world again. The three council representatives sat in stunned silence, processing everything they had learned. Humanity hadn't just survived their abandonment, they had used it as motivation to become a galactic power in their own right. What happens now? Jinwoo asked finally. Captain Donghyun stood up, straightening his uniform. Now we negotiate the terms of our coexistence as equals, because whether the Council recognizes it or not, humanity has already returned to galactic affairs. The only question is whether that return will be peaceful or not. The choice, he made clear, was entirely up to the Council. Captain Donghyun stood on the bridge of the TDS Sovereign, watching the stars through the main viewport. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the approach of the Council fleet that had come to escort them to the meeting point. "Captain," called Mi Young from the engineering station, "the Council ships are trying to scan us with their sensors." Dong Hyun smiled slightly. "Let them try. What are they learning?" "Nothing useful," Mi Young replied with satisfaction. "Our adaptive hull plating is reflecting their scans back as white noise. They're probably more confused now than when they started." The bridge of the Sovereign was a marvel of human engineering. Smooth surfaces that responded to touch and thought, holographic displays that could be manipulated in 3 dimensions, and an artificial intelligence that could process tactical data faster than any organic brain. Dayun looked up from the navigation console. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Council escort fleet. They're requesting that we follow them to the meeting coordinates." "Acknowledge their transmission," Dong Hyun ordered. "Tell them we're happy to follow their lead to the station." Kyung-ho, the weapons officer, turned from his console. "Captain, their escort consists of 8 heavy cruisers and 2 dreadnoughts. They're trying to look impressive." "And succeeding," Dong Hyun admitted. "Those are beautiful ships. Outdated, but beautiful." The Council fleet was indeed impressive by galactic standards. The massive dreadnoughts were over 1 kilometer long, bristling with energy weapons and protected by shields that could absorb incredible amounts of damage. Any normal species would be intimidated by such a display of force, but humans were no longer a normal species. "Mi Young," Dong Hyun said, "remind me why our ships are better than theirs." The chief engineer grinned. "Where do I start? Their shields are static energy barriers. Ours adapt to incoming attacks. Their weapons fire in straight lines. Ours can bend around obstacles using gravitational fields. Their armor is passive metal, plates. Ours repairs itself using nanotechnology." "And their speed?" "Their fastest ships can reach about 60% of light speed in normal space," Dayun answered. "We can reach 95%. In hyperspace, they need stable jump points. We can jump from anywhere to anywhere." Dong Hyun nodded. "And yet we're not here to fight them." "No, sir," agreed Kyung-ho, though he sounded slightly disappointed. The past 150 years had been hard on humanity. After Earth's sun began dying, the humans who escaped had been forced to survive in the harshest conditions imaginable. They had colonized worlds that other species considered uninhabitable. They had learned to build ships that could travel between stars without relying on anyone else for fuel or repairs. Most importantly, they had learned to never again depend on the mercy of others. "Captain," called the communications officer, "we're approaching the meeting station. The Council representatives are already aboard." Station Kepler 9 was an ancient trading post that had been abandoned for decades. It sat in neutral space between Council territory and the unknown regions where humanity had built its new civilization. "Take us to docking port 7, Dong Hyun ordered, "and prepare shuttle bay 2. We're going aboard." 20 minutes later, Captain Dong Hyun walked through the airlock into Station Kepler 9, followed by a small escort of human marines. The station's artificial gravity was lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel bouncy and strange. The Council representatives were waiting in the main conference room. Admiral Taeho stood at attention, his blue skin gleaming under the station's lights. Beside him, Jinwoo looked nervous but determined. Dr. Yoonji had her portable computer ready, no doubt hoping to learn everything she could about humanity's technological development. "Welcome," Jinwoo said formally. "I am Counselor Jinwoo, Chief Diplomatic Representative of the Galactic Council. This is Admiral Taeho, Commander of the Council Defense Force, and Dr. Yoonji, our specialist in xenoarchaeology." Dong Hyun bowed slightly, a gesture of respect rather than submission. "I am Captain Dong Hyun representing the Terran Dominion. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." As they took seats around the conference table, Admiral Taeho studied the Ayer human captain carefully. Dong Hyun looked relaxed, confident, but not arrogant. His uniform was simple but clearly made from advanced materials. The humans who had accompanied him stood quietly by the door, alert but not threatening. "Captain Dong Hyun," Jinwoo began, "we must admit to considerable surprise at your appearance here. Our records indicated that humanity became extinct when Earth's sun died. Humanity nearly became extinct, Donghyun corrected gently. But nearly is not the same as actually. Some of us escaped before the end. How many survived? Dr. Yoonji asked eagerly. Donghyun smiled. Enough. Admiral Taiho leaned forward. Captain, we're hoping for more specific information. How many humans are alive today? How many worlds do you control? What are your military capabilities? All reasonable questions, Donghyun agreed. But perhaps we should start with more basic matters, such as why the Galactic Council chose not to respond to Earth's distress calls 150 years ago. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. All three council representatives knew the answer, but none wanted to say it out loud. Finally, Jin-Woo spoke. The council debated the issue extensively. The cost of relocating an entire species was enormous, and frankly, humanity's technological development was considered insufficient to justify the expense. In other words, Donghyun said calmly, you decided we weren't worth saving. It wasn't personal, Admiral Taiho said quickly. It was a practical decision based on available resources and, Admiral, Donghyun interrupted, I'm not here to argue about past decisions. What's done is done. I'm here to discuss the future. He stood and walked to the conference room's main display screen, activating it with a gesture. The screen showed a star map of the local galactic region. This is Council space, he said, highlighting a section of the map in blue. 12 species, approximately 4,000 inhabited worlds, total population around 2 trillion beings. The council representatives nodded. These numbers were accurate. And this, Donghyun continued, highlighting another section in red, is Terran Dominion space. 17 worlds, current population classified, but sufficient to support a modern, interstellar civilization. Dr. Yoonji gasped. 17 worlds? How is that possible? Your species had barely developed interplanetary travel when Earth died. Desperation is an excellent teacher, Donghyun replied. When you know that failure means extinction, you learn very quickly. Admiral Taiho studied the map. The Terran territory was smaller than Council space but strategically positioned. Several important trade routes passed through or near human-controlled systems. What do you want from us? Taiho asked bluntly. Recognition, Donghyun answered, immediately. Official acknowledgement of the Terran Dominion as an independent galactic power. Respect for our territorial boundaries, normal trade and diplomatic relations. And in return? Donghyun smiled. We have technologies that might interest you. Medical advances, energy production methods, manufacturing techniques. We're willing to share some of these innovations in exchange for peaceful coexistence. Jin-Woo looked hopeful. That sounds very reasonable. I'm sure we can work out some kind of agreement that benefits everyone. I hope so, Donghyun agreed. But first I think a demonstration is in order. Before anyone could ask what he meant, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The council chamber on Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 12 different species filled the massive room, all talking at once. The emergency session had been called within hours of receiving Hyun-Woo's report from Deep, Space Station Omega-7. Admiral Taiho stood at the center podium, his blue skin darker than usual with stress. As head of the Council Defense Force, he had seen many threats to galactic peace. But this was different. This was personal. Order. We need order, he shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber. Slowly, the representatives took their seats and fell silent. Dr. Yoonji, the Council's chief expert on lost civilizations, stepped forward. Her thin frame seemed fragile next to the massive military officers, but everyone respected her knowledge. We have confirmed the identity of the approaching vessels, she announced. They are indeed human in origin. The language patterns, energy signatures, and ship designs all match historical records. A wave of shocked whispers filled the chamber. Many of the younger representatives had never heard of humans except in history classes. How is this possible? Asked Councillor Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. Earth was destroyed 150 years ago. We sent scouts to confirm it. Hyunji activated a holographic display showing the current positions of the human ships. Our scouts confirmed that Earth's surface was uninhabitable. But apparently, not all humans died with their world. Admiral Taeho stepped forward, his expression grim. The question now is what these survivors want. According to our historical records, humanity was an aggressive, warlike species. They fought constant wars among themselves even while their planet was dying. Jin Woo, the Council's chief diplomat, raised his hand. With respect, Admiral, those records are 150 years old. We should not judge these humans based on ancient history. Ancient history? Taeho's voice rose. They were abandoned by the galaxy and left to die. If I were human, I would want revenge. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives wanted to mobilize the fleet immediately. Others argued for peaceful contact. All the while, the human ships moved steadily closer to Council space. Finally, So-Min's voice came through the communication system from Station Omega-7. Council Command, the human fleet is requesting permission to send a representative to Nexus Prime for formal contact. The chamber fell silent. This was the moment they had been debating. First contact with a supposedly extinct civilization that had somehow survived and returned with advanced technology. What exactly did they say? Jinwoo asked. So-Min's voice was steady but tense. The message came from Captain Dong-hyun of the lead ship. He said, "The Terran Dominion requests formal diplomatic contact with the Galactic Council. We have important matters to discuss regarding our return to galactic affairs." Yoonji leaned forward. Terran Dominion. That suggests they have formed some kind of government. They're not just survivors anymore. They're organized. Admiral Taeho studied the tactical displays. 12 ships, each one larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. Unknown weapons technology. Shields that our sensors can barely penetrate. If they wanted to attack, they wouldn't need to ask permission first. Exactly. Jinwoo agreed. The fact that they're requesting diplomatic contact is encouraging. It suggests they want to talk, not fight. A new voice joined the conversation. Chief Communications Officer Park from the Council's main communications center spoke through the chamber's speakers. Councilors were receiving a direct transmission from the human fleet. They're requesting permission to broadcast a message to all council members. The chamber erupted in discussion again. Broadcasting to the entire council was usually reserved for major announcements or threats. Put it through, Jinwoo decided. Let's hear what they have to say. The main display activated, showing the bridge of an alien vessel. The technology visible in the background was clearly advanced, with sleek surfaces and displays that seemed to respond to thought, rather than touch. A human male appeared on the screen. He looked to be in his 40s with dark hair and calm, intelligent eyes. His uniform was simple but well made, with insignia that suggested high rank. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council," the human said in perfect standard galactic language. "I am Captain Dong-hyun of the Terran Dominion Navy. I speak for all human survivors on behalf of our government." He paused, letting his words sink in. Every representative in the chamber leaned forward, not wanting to miss a single word. 150 years ago, humanity faced extinction when our sun began to die. We sent distress calls across the galaxy, hoping for assistance from the civilizations we knew existed among the stars. We received no response. The accusation hung in the air. Everyone in the chamber knew it was true. The council had received those distress calls. They had debated helping humanity for months before deciding the cost was too high. "We do not contact you today seeking apologies or explanations for past decisions," Captain Dong-hyun continued. "The past cannot be changed. We contact you because humanity has survived, grown, and prospered. We have returned to take our place in galactic affairs." Admiral Taeho studied the human's face. There was no anger there, no hint of revenge. But there was something else. Confidence. The absolute certainty of someone who knew they held all the advantages. "We request a formal meeting with council representatives to discuss the future relationship between humanity and the existing galactic powers. We have much to offer in terms of trade, technology, and cooperation." We also have much to discuss regarding territorial boundaries and mutual respect. The message ended with coordinates for a meeting location, a neutral space station on the edge of Council territory. The chamber remained silent for a long moment after the transmission ended. "Well," Jinwoo said finally, "at least they're polite." "Polite, yes," Admiral Tae-ho replied. "But did you notice what they didn't say? No mention of forgiveness. No request for aid or recognition. They're not asking to join the galactic community. They're announcing that they're already a power in their own right." Dr. Yoon-ji nodded thoughtfully. The term Terran Dominion is also significant. It implies they control multiple worlds, not just a single colony ship of survivors. "The question is," said Counselor Veltar, "how many worlds, how many humans survived, and what kind of technology have they developed in isolation?" Jinwoo stood up. "There's only one way to find out. We accept their invitation for a meeting. I'll lead the diplomatic mission personally." Admiral Tae-ho shook his head. "With respect, Counselor Jinwoo, this could be dangerous. We don't know their true intentions." "Which is exactly why we need to meet with them," Jinwoo replied. "If they wanted to harm us, they could have attacked Station Omega-7 already. The fact that they're requesting diplomatic contact suggests they prefer negotiation to warfare." The vote was close, but the council agreed to the meeting. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, each was thinking the same thing. The galaxy was about to change. The question was whether that change would be peaceful or not. Captain Dong-hyun's calm confidence suggested that either way, humanity was ready for whatever came next. The alarm sound filled the control room of Deep Space Station Omega-7. Red lights flashed on every screen as Commander Hyun-woo ran toward his post. He had never heard this alarm before in his 20 years of service. "Report!" he shouted over the noise. So-min looked up from her station, her face pale. "Commander, we have detected a massive ship on the outer sensors. It just appeared out of nowhere." Hyun-woo frowned. Ships didn't just appear. Even with the fastest engines known to the galaxy, sensors could track vessels days before they arrived. "Show me the data." The main screen lit up with sensor readings. Hyun-woo stared at the numbers, not believing what he saw. The ship was enormous, 3 times larger than the biggest Council warships. Its energy signature was completely unknown. "How is this possible?" Hyun-woo asked. "Our sensors can detect ships from 5 star systems away." Jae-sung, the station's tactical expert, shook his head. "Sir, this ship uses technology we have never seen. It appeared inside our sensor range without any warning. Whatever stealth system it has, it's beyond anything in our databases." So-min's hands flew over her. "Controls. Commander, I'm getting strange readings from the ship's communication array. It's broadcasting on frequencies that haven't been used for over 100 years. The control room fell silent except for the hum of computers. Old frequencies meant old civilizations. Most of the ancient races had either joined the Galactic Council or disappeared completely. "Can you identify the ship's origin?" Hyun-woo asked. Jae-sung pulled up historical records on his screen. "The energy patterns don't match any known species. But there's something familiar about the ship's design. Let me check the ancient archives." While Jae-sung worked, Hyun-woo studied the mysterious vessel. It moved with purpose, not like a lost ship or explorers. This ship knew exactly where it was going. "Sir," So-min said quietly, "the ship is heading directly toward Council space. At its current speed, it will reach Nexus Prime in 3 days." Hyun-woo felt cold fear in his chest. Nexus Prime was the capital world of the Galactic Council, home to billions of beings from 12 different species. If this unknown ship had hostile intentions, "Send an emergency message to Council Command," he ordered. "Priority Alpha. Unknown vessel approaching Council space with advanced stealth technology." As So-min sent the message, Jae-sung made a sound of surprise. "Commander, I found something in the old files. These energy readings. They match theoretical predictions for a civilization that disappeared 150 years ago." "Which civilization?" Jae-sung's voice was barely a whisper. "Humans." The control room went completely silent. Everyone knew the story of humanity. They had been a young species, just beginning to explore space when their star started dying. They had sent desperate messages across the galaxy, begging for help. The Council had received these messages but decided humans were too primitive to save. The cost of relocating an entire species was too high for beings who had barely invented faster-than-light travel. That's impossible, Hyunwoo said. Humans went extinct when their sun died. We have confirmed reports that Earth is now a dead world. Maybe they didn't all die, So-min suggested. Maybe some escaped. Jae-sung shook his head. Even if some humans survived, they wouldn't have this kind of technology. When Earth went silent, they were still using primitive fusion drives. This ship has technology more advanced than anything the Council has ever built. Hyunwoo stared at the sensor readings. The ship's power output was incredible. Its shields were stronger than a Council battle fleet. Its weapons signatures were completely unknown but clearly powerful. Try to make contact, he ordered So-min. Use standard Council greeting protocols. So-min sent the message and waited. Minutes passed with no response. Then her console beeped. Incoming transmission, she announced. It's using the old human language. English. Put it through the translator and play it. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and confident. It spoke in a language that hadn't been heard in Council space for over a century. This is Captain Dong-hyun of the Terran Dominion warship Sovereign. We have returned. The silence in the control room was complete. Everyone stared at the speakers as if they might explain what they had just heard. Terran Dominion. Hyunwoo repeated. That means Earth, but Earth is dead. So-min checked her console again. Sir, the ship is definitely broadcasting from the coordinates of the unknown vessel, and the voice, it matches human vocal patterns from the old records. Jae-sung pulled up more files. Commander, if this really is a human ship, we need to inform the Council immediately. The historical files show that humans were considered a potentially dangerous species. Their entire culture was based on conflict and competition. Hyunwoo remembered the old stories. Humans were said to be warriors by nature, always fighting among themselves. Some Council members had been secretly relieved when humanity disappeared, thinking the galaxy was safer without them. How many ships are out there? He asked. So-min adjusted her sensors. I'm detecting energy signatures from at least 12 vessels. They're spread out in formation, moving together toward Council space. 12 ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything in the Council fleet. If these really were humans, they had clearly learned to build impressive warships during their time away. Send another message to Council Command, Hyunwoo ordered. Tell them we have confirmed contact with human survivors. Multiple ships, unknown technology level, approaching Council space. Request immediate instructions. As So-min sent the message, the human ship transmitted again. Deep Space Station Omega-7, this is Captain Dong-hyun. We know you are monitoring our approach. We wish to speak with representatives of the Galactic Council. We have much to discuss. The voice was polite but firm. There was no threat in the words, but everyone in the control room could hear the confidence. These humans were not asking permission. They were announcing their presence. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. The galaxy had abandoned humanity to die. Now humanity had returned, apparently stronger than ever. What did they want? And what would they do to the civilizations that had left them to face extinction alone? The mysterious ship continued toward Council space, carrying secrets that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about the supposedly extinct human race.